Okay, so I see the room is filling up. Let me quickly start the recording.
This meeting is being recorded.
So I guess we can kick it off, right? Thanks for joining, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar about migration, SQL Server and Synapse to Databricks. Thanks for joining. Glad so many people are here. And with that being said, I would hand it over to the colleagues from Highfly to start with the first part of the webinar.
Okay, so I shared my screen and I believe you can see. First of all, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. If you are with us today, chances are you are already living with the same reality we hear from data and AI leaders every week. A Synapse-centric platform that has been served the business well, but it's starting to feel its limits as AI, real-time, and self-service demand keep rising. So over the next half hour, we will walk through the strategic drivers, the migration choices in front of you, and the lessons we've taken from the real client engagements. So on the next slide, I will jump for our agenda today. So we will cover 6 sections today. The first one will be a quick introduction from the Highfly Lab slides, who we are and why we are qualified to talk about this topic. The second one will be about the strategic drivers behind the modernization right now, what's actually changed on the market. And the third one is focusing on Synapse versus Databricks, the practical comparison and the business cases that can drive this kind of changes. And the fourth one is focusing on the migration approach and the methodology, how we recommend running these programs nowadays in the market. And the fifth block is on focusing on the real-world success stories from the field. And 6, we try to summarize most of the best practices and the lessons learned from our previous engagement on the market. So let's start with a quick word on Highfly Labs. So at Highfly Labs, we have 3 things we should always mention when we have a quick introduction. We solve critical use cases by industries. Our focus industries are energy and utilities, telecommunication, retail and e-commerce, finance and banking. So we are not just selling tools, we deliver outcomes inside specific industry context. And the second, that we provide end-to-end solutions. By end-to-end solutions, we mean that from the consulting approach, we can help our clients create the whole concept and design the data warehouses or the data approaches, even from a strategic perspective. And from there, we have all of the necessary competencies on board, including the data engineering with the architecture capabilities and also the development capabilities, the machine learning and AI capabilities, and the software development to create specific UIs with exceptional user experience at the end for mobile or web. And also we have the consulting and change management practices at the end. So after we deliver the solutions, we can support our clients adopt this kind of solutions as well. And the third one, that we are pragmatic AI adopters, which means that we are investing heavily in the top tier technologies around the market. So our competitive edge is that we are always in the frontier of technical innovation in the field of AI. That's why we are using top technologies like Databricks on the market right now. And the next slide is just a few examples about how we work. Right now, we have extended operations in Western Europe, in the US, and especially we have engagements in Brazil as well. We have more than 250 experts on board. We delivered more than 500 data and AI projects so far, and we are serving more than 200 clients across the globe. And for us, just a few sentences about us. My name is Mihály Dorányi. I lead our data and AI solutions practice at Highfly Labs. My focus is helping organizations turn data and AI strategy into delivered outcomes, which means I spend most of my time inside migration and modernization programs like the one we are about to discuss. And joining me, András. András, please tell a few words about you as well.
Hello, I'm András Zimmer. I'm the CDO of Highfly Labs, and I spearhead our most advanced technology solutions as we deliver to the market. And among these are the Databricks ones, and among the Databricks ones are the Databricks migrations. That's what I will talk about later. But back to you, Mish.
Okay, thanks, András. Then I'm jumping back to the presentation because we need to hurry because we don't have much time. So let's first set the strategic context. Why this conversation suddenly everywhere? Enterprise data platforms are being reassessed because there are three focus areas in the market: AI, real-time analytics, and the cost pressure itself. And these are exposing the limits of the architecture that were designed for traditional BI. We believe that expectations have shifted on the market. From roughly 2018 to 2022, the dominant pattern was a BI-first warehouse plus separate ML stacks. A warehouse for BI, a lake for engineering, separate machine learning environments. And in the Microsoft world, this typically meant Synapse plus Power BI for reporting and machine learning projects bolted on with their own compute and governance. But from 2024 onward, this shift is clear toward a unified lakehouse architecture, BI, engineering, and AI on one copy of data with one governance model. One platform governed in each, and it built to have GenAI real-time and self-service workloads from day one. And this is really important. And we believe on the market, there are three things that are pushing this kind of change. The first one is that AI and GenAI move from pilots to board priorities, which raises the bar on what a data platform must support. And the second one is the parallel stacks right now are driving cost and complexity around the market. And most of the companies are trying to solve this kind of issues. And the third one, there's a pressure for faster and more trusted decisions around business, less time moving the data and more using it. And one important nuance, and we will to this later, Azure Synapse is not retired. Microsoft Fabric is the stated next-gen direction. The question we are addressing in this presentation today is the strategic modernization for the next 3 to 5 years, not a forced migration. And this is an important discussion during the presentation. Okay, so we have a discussion about Synapse right now. So we collected the most relevant pain points from our market experience. We believe that most pain points are coming from an architectural fragmentation, and they intensify when teams moving from traditional BI into machine learning and AI. And 5 recurring patterns on the market. The first one is that the fragmented experience. There are dedicated SQL pools, serverless SQL, Spark, pipelines, and Power BI. It just feels like there are separate products stitched together rather than a single platform. And it's really important, and it could be really annoying for the average users of these platforms. And the second one is the operational tuning overhead. The pool sizing, the distribution keys, Spark clusters, all of it consumes a lot of really expensive engineering time that could be building new capabilities later, and it could be really expensive to replace someone if in sudden actions leaves the company or someone need to be replaced by a new engineer. And the third one is the data duplication and movement. Data is copied between lake, warehouse, and machine learning, which can increase the cost and can weaken the lineage at the end. And the fourth one is about it's really hard to scale beyond traditional BI. Adding machine learning, real-time, or GenAI typically means that you need to have more services, which could be really expensive at the end because you need to activate new services from a platform. And the fifth one, the skills and the productivity frictions. Engineers, analysts, and data scientists each work in different tools, slowing the collaboration, and it could be really frustrating at the end if you don't understand what kind of environments other colleagues use right now within a Synapse platform. And one important balance though, The severity depends on the workload mix, as we mentioned earlier. The architectural maturity, the team skills, and the operating model are also really important. Synapse can run effectively for stable BI, but the friction compounds when the workload mix expands into machine learning, real-time, and AI. Jumping for the next slide, the next slide is all about the migration drivers for Databricks, because most of the discussions around Databricks, they are looking for specific topics, both on the strategic level and both on the operational level. So when we are designing a successful Synapse to Databricks migration, we need to find out the drivers, organizational wise, what kind of drivers they need in order to make a decision about the migration. The 7 drivers are in the strategic and on the operational level. On the strategic level, there are a lot of thinking about platform consolidation. So replacing the multiple services is one, and reduce the architecture and licensing complexity, which is a huge benefit with Databricks. The second one is the lakehouse modernizations. Organizations sometimes trying to push into the open formats like Data, Parquet, or Iceberg, reducing the potential vendor lock-in. The third one is the AI and machine learning readiness. Most of the organizations nowadays are really open for new kind of AI and machine learning initiatives, and these kind of initiatives requires a specific type of data platform. So native model lifecycles, feature engineering, and large-scale training, for example, if we are discussing the machine learning environment. And the fourth one is the unified governance and sharing. Databricks has one catalog and this structure, and it can contain the structure, the semi-structured, and the AI assets as well in a governed way, which is a huge benefit at the end. And from the operational level, it can provide faster delivery, within shared notebooks, SQL, and BI, and shortening the path from raw data to real AI and data products. And also, it's really important that it's more transparent than, for example, Synapse. So cost transparency is also a really, really important factor. On the workflow level, the cost attribution makes FinOps more practical. And last but not least, the future alignment. The open table format, it's hedge against future platform changes. So it could be really important for strategic decisions to understand that this platform has less vendor lock-in risks than Synapse, for example. And one observation from our engagements, the strongest cases combine 2 or more drivers at an organization. So the classic example, for example, when a bank is trying to consolidate the analytics platform by building the new AI capabilities, which wasn't available for them in earlier periods, and they are trying to solve the regulation issues as well, because the regulations around AI are tightening nowadays, and these 3 drivers can drive the decision at the end on the CIO or even on the CEO level. So that's where the real ROI math is convincing at the end. And the business case for migration. So most of the time, company is not starting with a full-scale migration. They need to understand what kind of technologies have what kind of capabilities. So they are starting small. And we have this kind of experience that we should start with a simple use case, and from the simple use case can convince the board to have a large-scale migration. To do that, we always started, we need to understand the baseline, the cost, the delivery speed, the pipeline maintenance, and a lot of things. If you don't know the baseline, you cannot compare the new stack. The second one, we need to find a high value, low risk workflow. And during a pilot and measure time, you need to compare the old methodology and the new one. This is, for example, when you have a loyalty program in retail and you have a traditional data-driven loyalty logic, or you have an AI-driven, machine learning-driven loyalty program, you need to run it parallel, and you need to compare at the end and measure the evidence that this is a right tool and there's an ROI at the end, which you can use at the end to convince the board to scale based on this kind of evidence. And the next block is all about the decision dimensions. So as we mentioned before, there are a few dimensions which you need to take into account. First of all, you need to understand your workload mix. We suggest to stay on Synapse if you only need a BI stable operation with predictable SQL workloads. If you believe that you need to have a specific workflow with expanding machine learning, real-time, and GenAI, you need to migrate to a modern data platform like Databricks. And also on the skills and operating model, if you have strong Azure SQL skills and the tuning is under control right now, and it's really important that you are not in a vendor lock-in where some vendor is just trying to tune your existing architecture, then you should stay on Synapse because that's stable. But if you need a multi-tool architecture, if you have a multi-tool architecture which is really expensive and you need more transparency, you need to go for Databricks for solving that kind of issue. And the third one is the AI, machine learning, and GenAI roadmap. If you don't have machine learning or AI initiatives or real-time in the upcoming month, then you should stay on Synapse. But if you have more AI and machine learning initiatives coming up in the next 12 or 24 months, I think you should consider moving to Databricks. The governance and compliance, if the existing governance meeting the requirements, then you should stay. But if you need new governance and lineage requirements, then you should move to Databricks. And also the future flexibility. If the fabric direction acceptable for your technical strategy, then you should stay on Synapse. But if you are more like the open formats and the platform agnostic way, then you need to go into that direction. But our overall recommendation, you should start with the workload assessment, migrate when the value is clearest first, and typically use the advanced analytics and machine learning, not the SQL. So jumping for the next slide, because most of the time when we had client engagement, they are always asking, okay, but what's the ROI? If someone is trying to push through, what will be the expected outcome? So we gathered some research from the market, and let's put number on the prices. Forrester's Total Economic Impact Study found, together with Databricks, that for one composite organization based on several interviews on the market, in case of a retail company, in 417% 3-year ROI is experienced during this kind of survey, which is caused by 5% revenue increase by improved customer experience and the optimized pricing. Also, improved productivity of the data scientist by 25%. And also decreased the compute time. This is a really convincing number, but it's really important that this is commissioned composite state case study, directional, not guaranteed. So your number will depend on your actual workload mix. So treat it as a proof of point, not a promise. But the really interesting why these numbers are coming up. The first one is that one platform, one copy of data, and it eliminates the duplication across warehouses, lake, and machine learning, and also reducing the storage cost and the reconciliation efforts. And also the faster speed to value. Engineers, analysts, and data scientists collaborate in shared environment. The scalability for AI and GenAI is also really important because it's built for large-scale machine learning alongside SQL analytics, which are not bolted on, like in this case of Synapse, for example. And the next one is the stronger governance, unified catalog, lineage, and access controls across data and AI assets, which is also critical in regulated industry. And also the TCO improvements. Consolidation reduces the redundant pipelines, licenses, and overhead. And actual savings depend on the workload mix itself. So after the business case, there's a question about how we should choose our migration approach. We believe there are 3 viable approaches right now around the market. Option 1 is the lift and shift, moving workflows as it is change the platform, then the logic. This is best when speed is critical and the deadline is forcing the hand, and this is the case sometimes. So it's really pushing right now. And the trade-off is real here. On the other hand, legacy debt is carried forward, so limited cost and AI upside can be experienced at the end, and usually the follow-up modernization wave is missing sometimes. But the second option is the full business rewriting, re-architecting the data models, the pipelines, and the segments around the current business need. Best for strategic high-value workflows where the current design is broken or AI is blocking right now. The cost is the highest upfront effort and the longest time to value. But our recommendation is the third. And this is the hybrid one, lift and shift, then modernizing at the end. You move the low value stable workloads as it is to retire the legacy infrastructure quickly. That gives you an immediate cost and complexity wins. Then in parallel and in subsequent waves, you rewrite the high value workflows where the business can justify it. We believe that the hybrid approach win at the end. And on the next slide, András will tell you a little bit about why it is the winner strategy based on our market experience.
I should be able to unmute myself, but I just couldn't find a button for this. Okay, so now you have some understanding what drives a migration, but why migrate to a data platform like Databricks? Modern data platforms are defined by a few things. One of those is that it has to have a separate storage and a decoupled compute layers to it. Those are very important defining characteristics of data lakes and have been for a long time. But there is one thing more that you need in a modern data platform, and that's what makes it a lake house. And those are the transactional guarantees that it can provide. If you look at the layers, obviously there's an ingest layer, and whereas we used to have mostly batch ingestion back in the data warehousing world, streaming ingestion and data sharing they come up more and more in real life situations. As Mishi mentioned, that there is a very sensible pressure on the market towards being faster in data processing and getting to the goal layer faster. Now, the second part of a data platform is the internals, the transformation, the query and processing layer, and the serving layers. Most of the time, modern data platforms do include the three data layers, the bronze, silver, and the gold layers. But above them and below them, there are a few very important service aspects. One such service aspects is the operations. So there should be monitoring, auditability, resource management, and so on for the whole platform. Then there is data governance, and it should be unified. Data governance, so it should govern everything that's in the data platform, not just data access, but also AI agents, data quality, and so on. Data security is getting more and more important by the day. So, for example, row-level security is something that is very often required from modern data platforms. Or data masking, which is a GDPR requirement at a lot of places. And AI infrastructure has to be built into the platform. AI is so important at this point, and it's getting so widespread that it has to be an integral part of the lakehouse. And whereas the consumption layer used to be reporting and BI, as Mishi mentioned, and later we had APIs and data products, but now many of the consumption patterns are around AI. So, for example, predictive AI or ML modeling, generative AI, and knowledge bases, and also agentic applications. So all of these have to come together in one data platform for it to be useful and for it to be able to serve your needs in the coming years. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thanks. So once we we know that we have use cases that we would like to migrate. We have an approach to migration like lift and shift or rewrite or a hybrid, and we understand where we want to migrate to. What should be a methodology whereby we can migrate? A migration has 3 phases. The first one is the pre-migration assessment. This is something that is talked about very little, much less than it's worth. That's the assessment and planning and the preparation phases when we figure out what we want to migrate, what the roadmap should be, what tools we are going to use, what our data assets are, and whether we are happy with certain data processing pipelines or we want to rewrite them. Then in the next phase, the conversion phase is the one that everybody understands pretty easily. We have to migrate the data pipelines first. That used to be the largest or the more time-consuming part of the whole migration. Obviously, for each piece of data transformation logic that we migrated, we have to test it and then correct once they don't work. And once we're done with the conversion, or most of it, there's a finalization phase in which we migrate the original data sets. Some of them may be huge, and if the pre-migration assessment was not thorough enough, we may very easily face nasty surprises here, like missing data or data that is not conformant to our expectations. And then there's the last piece of the migration is obviously the finalization and cutover. Cutover being the most heated part of the whole process when we just start a new platform and hope for the best. Ishi, can be moved to how this is. These phases are very well supported by some of the Databricks' tools. Databricks has a free migration tool set. It's called LakeBridge. It has a few parts to it, like the analyzer, the profiler that help to assess what needs to be migrated, and the transpiler that can convert mostly automatically Synapse SQL or SQL codes into Databricks SQL, and it has a built-in way to test the migration as well. Most of these phases can be. Can you advance by one, please? Most of these phases can be AI accelerated in one way or another, which has been a huge acceleration in our experience. The first, the code and dependency discovery. It's possible through Lakebase. Lakebridge. So it's possible through Lakebridge. It can parse store procedures and it can auto-map lineage and can detect what the blast radius of certain pipelines are. It's important so that we can select which pipelines to move first. Obviously, SQL ETL conversion support is highly AI accelerated to the point where 40 to 70% less manual transformation is required, and that cuts back that part of the project by some 70%. So that's a lot, and that used to be the longest piece of every migration project. Then obviously AI can help a lot in document generation. Some of these documentation is related to the discovery, so it will give us a lot better understanding what we have as a code base, but it also can generate the documentation for the new pipelines. Then it can help with test case creation or selection of data that can best test the pipelines. And it can also generate regression tests for the migrated pipeline. The way we usually do AI assisted or AI accelerated migrations is that we build an assembly line. So we let the AI to draft the ETL pipelines, even self-correct themselves through the testing and self-correction loop. But in the end, it's always engineers that review the artifacts and they sign them off. And AI acceleration boosts engineering productivity a lot. Refactoring, especially in the cases when we don't do lift and shift migrations, but change some parts. Refactoring to business documentation is a lot easier through AI. So what we find is that it's AI is a force multiplier, a real one. It's not an autopilot, and it's not going to do everything overnight, but it does help a lot. It can cut back manual effort by 40 to 70%. So it can basically cut half of it or 2/3 of it. Discovery is way faster, and testing is also cut back a lot. Can you move to some of the examples that we have? Okay, the reference cases. I brought here 3 reference cases. I don't want to detail them. We'll share the slides, I guess, afterwards, so you can look into them. But these are 3 different companies, 3 different verticals, 3 different goals, and different lessons or learnings from the migrations. Lippert modernized its scattered and fragmented legacy system, which had limited scalability into the AI age. Their goal was to onboard and to an extent replace help desk stuff and they designed modernization and the way that it operator on a 6-fold.
András, your Connection is unstable right now, so we cannot hear you clear.
And obviously saved a lot of money on hiring. I'm sorry, there is not much I can do, I guess. Is it better now?
Now it's better.
I wonder if it's any better now.
Yeah, it seems better.
The second reference is PepsiCo. Obviously, you all know the company. Their problem was that they had a very fragmented BI estate that was scattered across many technologies and many warehouses, with obviously a lot of duplicated data and weak governance. So and this consolidation cut them a lot of cost and improved performance, while at the same time made it easier for them to manage the platform. The third one, it was a multi-integration at a to demonstrate that a phased migration is possible and pays dividends or brings benefits fast. That's also a somewhat different approach when you don't want to move everything in one project, but in a series of projects. So they first moved a part of their data processing, which had bumped against performance limits, and they replaced it with a Databricks solution that cut the average runtime by half and was a lot more cost effective thanks to optimized resource utilization. And this cut in runtime was not managed through larger resources or more or beefier machines, because it used just the same size of machines that they had used earlier. That's that. Mishi, I guess.
So can we jump back for the first one, because we haven't heard much about that?
Okay, I will. So Lippert modernized their platform into the AI age. Their goal was to make the onboarding of their helpdesk operators a lot faster, and their problem was that their legacy systems were very fragmented and were not very scalable. And through a very well designed and thoughtfully implemented platform modernization, they cut the operator onboarding time from 6 months to 4 weeks, which is a lot, especially at helpdesk operations, where the churn or the people turnover is very high. So it's a lot of efficiency there, and they saved a lot of money by being able to retire the fragmented legacy platforms. Michi, can we advance one slide, please? So I collected 8 lessons from the field that I would like to share. These hard trials and errors. So suggest that you migrate everything at once if you can face it. So do waves, and for each wave you can deliver value, and it's a lot easier sell in the boardroom. Can you hear me? Because my internet connection is supposedly unstable. Ishi?
We heard a few thoughts, but not everything, András. So if the internet connection is still unstable, I believe we should jump for the next slide and just finishing up this presentation, and we will share the presentation afterward, and we can have the question sections if you are really interested in some parts. Is it okay, András, if I jump in?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so sorry about the internet connection right now. Just jumping for our last slide right now, which will summarize the key takeaways. The first one is that modernization is driven by business and technology together. Speed, cost, and AI readiness and operational risk. Framing it as tech upgrade alone is really problematic, and most of the times program that starts a tech upgrade fails, and that's a really important note to take at the end. The second one, success most of the time depends on the phased execution, as András mentioned, with clear priorities. Wave by wave, where you will add migration beats the big bang every time. And the third one is that AI accelerates the work, but you need to use it responsibly. 40 to 70% less manual effort is required when pairing AI with the right experience and the right governance. And the fourth one is that reference patterns reduce risks. So reuse proven patterns, and then you don't need to invent a new playbook on your own program. So you need to have the experts. And the fifth one, now is the time. So the cost pressure and AI demand are both rising. Waiting is itself a strategic risk. So at the end, we recommend to assess your current warehouse estate, identify the modernization priorities, and build a roadmap grounded in business value, not list of servers. And that's how these programs succeed. And thank you very much for attention. And we are passing the mic back to Sasha.
Yes, thanks, Mihaly. So far we have seen how to migrate, why to migrate, when it makes sense, when it maybe also doesn't make sense. And now I want to make this a bit more tangible. So especially what your data looks like after migration, and then what becomes possible, which wasn't possible before. So let me quickly share my screen. 1 second. So I hope you can see it. Imagine a fashion brand that is making spacesuits. So very advanced products, as you can see here, looking really nice. But unlike their very advanced products, they are still running in an old SQL Server data warehouse and hundreds of reports for different questions to answer. The classic setup, I think we have all seen somewhere so far. And that means there's a lot of dependencies to BI experts that have to maintain the reports, for example, adjust them if there's new questions and so on, because they have the technical ability and expertise, which also means lots of tickets, lots of overhead in the organization itself. So let's assume they just completed their migration to Databricks. And they migrated, for example, their supply chain data, but also fulfillment data, funnel data, maybe incident data, different data, all into what we call Unity Catalog, which is basically our unique source of truth. So Unity Catalog is a place that governs and secures and also contains all of your data. Could be tables or columns from a technical point of view, but could also be business descriptions, lineage, maybe AI models, everything all in one place, what we call this Unity Catalog, which is our main governance solution as well. So you would know the data, and you would also know the schema from the old warehouse, right? But now you can do fundamentally new things, also supported by AI, which I want to show you in the next few minutes. So let's jump into it. This is the Databricks UI that you can see. So on the left, we have quite some functionality. We have our data available. In that case, would be a schema with different kind of tables that I could browse here. For each of the tables, I could also select some sample data, for example. So in that case, we see commerce daily KPIs, right, from our destination, from our store regions. You can see we have multiple stores and multiple planets. different customer segments and different suits, which is basically our products in different sizes that we sell here. And you have much more information available here as well. For example, the permissions on that table, but also something like lineage information, which reports, for example, depend on that data, or business descriptions. What does this data contain? And also, of course, the data itself. So typically, after migration, what do you want to see first? It is the dashboard. So you want to have your own, your old familiar dashboards, right? So that's why I created a dashboard, in that case, kind of executive dashboard with our AI/BI, which is the built-in dashboards we have here at Databricks. And you can see we have some kind of classic KPIs, revenue orders, revenue trends, and interactive charts that you can see, delivery performance, different type of information that is displayed here, as well as some kind of return dashboard, for example, showing me the revenue impacts and so on and so forth. And that's a classic dashboard that we all know, right? But now there's also what we call Genie. And Genie is our natural language chat with your data tool. So I could open a chat directly from this dashboard and give it a question. For example, something like, how many orders did we ship in November? So based on the data set that is the source of this dashboard, this Genie can also work on the exact same data, and you can give it just natural language. Under the hood, it will translate this language into a query on the data. For example, SQL code that you could also inspect if you would want to, but typically you don't need to, because you directly get the result. So you don't need any technical expertise, right? And I could also ask follow-up questions. It's not only just a one shot, but I could also ask it how many of these were returns, for example. So all the questions where typically people would have to modify the dashboard itself and create a new chart, for example, I can now ask directly out of the dashboard. So we can see, okay, we sold 250,000 in November and 72,000 were returned. So it also automatically calculates how many of them were returned. Okay, so for the more advanced questions, we can also open this, what we call Genie Space, and directly jump in here. And there's different options. For example, the agent mode that gives the system a bit more time to give a bit more precise and better answers. So in that case, we could ask. So back on the dashboard, we saw something was happening here mid of December, right? This looks more or less good until here something dropped. And now we want to know why, of course. So we're gonna ask it, what happened during the incident in December? Typically quite unprecise question, but let's see what it can get out of it. So in the meantime, while this is running, because this has to query different tables, we would also try to explore this on our own, so that I can show you the different capabilities. Now I'm in the edit mode of the dashboard. You can see I have some more options available here. And here I can, for example, create a new page and want to show you how you can also create full dashboards with what we call Genie code. So back in the days, you would have to learn the tool, how it works, how you create diagrams, how to modify these diagrams. Now you can also create dashboards just by chat. So for example, I could give it a question, something like, show me revenue by or of all over US. So it would understand POS means, in my case, point of sales, which you got. You can see the text if you were quick in reading. And now basically wrangling the data set that is behind this report. It could also extract data from other parts of the Unity catalog, everything that is available there. And understand what I mean, try to map it to the data it has, and then try to create basically visuals inside of this chart. So you can already see it understood. Okay, I want to do some POS revenue. So it would rename the page. That's the first thing. Now, of course, it is running for a bit and it's creating already 2 charts for me. Initially, they are empty because there's no data yet, but now it would basically iterate step by step and get more content to fill these charts. So on the right side, you can see what's happening basically in the background. It is translating to a SQL query and executing this query. And we would give it 1 or 2 seconds. Also, my internet connection is not the best today. So as always with the demo, sometimes it takes a bit longer. It's happening. While that is running, we can already have a look at the result here. So you see it says like thinking complete. So it did multiple tables and multiple steps to get a good report for me. So it's not just, one request and then you get it back. It says, okay, in September, we saw a significant revenue incident. That's what we could see in the charts. Dropping revenue, okay. Financial breakdown, okay. And we also see what are the products that are most affected by this. Nebula Flex, one of our nice suits. Okay, and this is what we can see. And now we also see where does it come from, right? So what's the root cause? I don't have to dig on this on my own. So as I went in again, and there was some kind of supplier issue. So all of these charts, basically, it rendered out of the box just from the response it got. I'd never told it, please give me that chart or that chart. So ultimately, it says, okay, after that, the metrics are stable, and it says basically looks like product quality. And I could now also ask it, is the issue solved now? Because I want to know, is this still an ongoing topic or was it then already resolved? And we can see this running. Here, it also asked me for permissions, for example, to refresh some kind of data. Now I could say always allow. I also have other options. And it could refresh and render the data. So you've seen we have created 2 charts. Ultimately, I can fully customize these charts as well. Right? So it's not a black box. It's the same as I would create these charts manually. There's also an option so I can just add my own charts and then later on modify, for example, the chart type or also the color. All of the options you know from the classic BI tools. And inside the chart, I could also let it generate not the full report, but just a single chart, for example, by selecting something or just typing what I need to have here. And for example, resize this a bit, rearrange. You can make this more beautiful, of course. But as you can see, now I have POS revenue by suits with nice colors, automatically created. I didn't have to select any type of the visualization. Coming back to if my issue was solved, it says, it's partially resolved. I still get charts where it indicates when my recovery phase began and some more information. So I could really dig deeper into the root cause. Okay, so let's take one and think what we've seen so far. So you saw some data that was basically logged in an old SQL warehouse for, I don't know, 15 years or something. And basically 3 things happened. So first, everything was governed in one place. It was this Unity catalog that I showed at the beginning. You have your structured data, unstructured data, AI model security, everything all in one place. You don't need different tools to fulfill all of these purposes. Second, the data, it became visual in minutes. So the dashboard shows that I only needed a fraction of time to create an actual dashboard instead of traditional BI tools. And last thing, it was conversational. So I could ask natural language to get data insights. I didn't need to know SQL or any technical expertise, which ultimately let me work much faster and democratize more of your data. So all of that is hard to calculate in a TCO spreadsheet for the migration. But I think what was clearly visible is that organizations just get much faster and therefore better in decision making if you have these capabilities across the entire organization. So what I want to give you on the way is like thinking about the migration, not only about something like moving data from A to B in a technical matter, but also what becomes possible after this migration, which capabilities are now available that haven't been before. And together with Hive Labs, we can help you to get there from the first discovery workshop until ultimately your CFO asks Genie a question as we did it today and just gets the response a few seconds later. With that being said, thanks for listening, and I'm happy to take some questions if we have any here. Okay, I don't see any questions so far in the chat. However, we will send out the slides and also a recording afterwards. Feel free to contact the Hive colleagues or contact me directly if anything comes up later. We're happy to support and answer all your questions. Okay, I see some reactions, some thumbs up. Thanks for listening. And with that being said, I wish you all a nice afternoon. Thanks for the presentators, and then hope to hear you soon.
The recording has stopped.